The British government wants to approve 8 new reactors at once. The plans for nuclear waste in the new energy strategy are striking, because there aren't any. It's not often that a British minister praises a country that isn't called Great Britain. In Prime Minister Boris Johnson's Brexit world, the United Kingdom has always come first. But since Putin's war of aggression against Ukraine, there has been a new role model in energy policy, and that's France. The nuclear power plants there may have cost a fortune, British Business Secretary Kwasi Kwarteng told The Telegraph, but they guarantee the country a level of independence that is envied. Being self-sufficient is what matters now, also in Great Britain. The government wants to make the country as independent as possible from energy imports, especially from Russia. To achieve that, Johnson and Kwarteng presented an energy security strategy on Thursday. The focus is on a massive expansion of nuclear energy and wind power. Both should help to make the country climate neutral by 2050. The renaissance of nuclear power is particularly noteworthy. While here in Germany a possible lifetime extension of nuclear power plants is still being debated, the government in London has decided 8 new nuclear reactors are to be approved by 2030. If all goes according to plan, by 2050 they should have a capacity of 24 gigawatts, covering a quarter of Britain's electricity needs. Currently, the share of nuclear energy is 16%. A project that has repeatedly been delayed in recent years shows how difficult it is to expand nuclear power. Hinkley Point C in Somerset in England, the first new nuclear power plant to be built on the island in 2 decades. The power plant was originally supposed to be ready in 2017, but nothing came of it. Now the 2 planned pressurized water reactors are scheduled to go into operation in 2026 and 2027. Whether this will succeed is an open question. Just last week, the French energy company responsible for the construction, EDF, warned that the schedule was again in jeopardy. In addition, the cost estimate is now £23 billion, that's £5 billion higher than planned. And Johnson still wants to stick to it. The same applies to another EDF project on the English east coast, the Sizewell C nuclear power plant. A new nuclear power plant is also to be built on the Welsh island of Anglesey. However, there is a freeze on construction there after the Japanese company Hitachi withdrew. There are already interested parties from the USA who have submitted offers to take over the construction of the nuclear power plant, but the government is apparently at odds. While the Economics Ministry considers the new nuclear power offensive to be indispensable for achieving the climate goals, the Finance Ministry is concerned that the construction of new nuclear power plants could ultimately become too expensive. Johnson, however, does not want to know anything about it. He's fully committed to nuclear energy. The Prime Minister has high hopes for so-called mini-kilns. The small power plants are currently being developed under the leadership of Rolls-Royce and are expected to be much more economical compared to the construction cost of Hinkley Point C. Johnson is unlikely to face any major opposition to any of his nuclear plans. Compared to Germany, there are few opponents of nuclear power in Great Britain. A large public debate about the pros and cons of nuclear energy is not to be expected. And so there is not a word in the government strategy paper on the final disposal of nuclear waste. In Great Britain, as in France, the construction of a nuclear power plant is more of a climate-friendly project. In order to become even greener in this sense, the government also wants to promote the expansion of renewable energies. If Johnson has his way, Great Britain should become a Saudi Arabia of wind power. By 2030, up to 50 gigawatts should come from offshore systems. The current share is almost 10 gigawatts. However, because wind is not enough to break away from energy supplies from authoritarian states in the short term, new oil and gas production projects are planned in the North Sea. The pressure on the government to act as quickly as possible is increasing. As in other European countries, energy prices have risen sharply in Great Britain. There is talk of a cost of living crisis. The inflation rate is really high now and the trend is rising. Unlike the European Central Bank, however, the Bank of England has already taken countermeasures and raised the key interest rate, most recently to 0.05%. But one thing is certain, the cost of living will rise. It's not just electricity and gas bills, which, according to regulator Ofgem, are increasing by an average of £700 a year for a household. There's also VAT for hotel accommodation and concert tickets, which was reduced to the corona pandemic but is now back at 20%. Social security contributions have also increased since this week. The proceeds are to benefit the chronically underfunded National Health Service, the NHS, which is responsible for healthcare in the country. While the Treasury Department has unveiled a relief package that includes gas price cuts and relief for low-income earners, even Johnson has recognized that this will not be enough to alleviate the plight of the country's poorer people. At least Johnson can claim a plus point in the Europe-wide debate about an import ban for Russian energy supplies. Compared to many other European countries, Britain is far less dependent on Putin. Only 4% of the British gas requirement comes from Russia. For oil, it is 8%. And so the government decided a month ago to stop oil imports from Russia until the end of this year. Imports of gas are to be phased out as soon as possible. There is no exact date, unlike the nuclear power plant plants. Not yet. But the thing with the nuclear waste and the power plants, Johnson always has big plans, but we will see how this will turn out. Of course, it's a strategy I can understand. I was against the early phasing out of the German nuclear energy. I said this in several videos already. On the long term, we have to get out of nuclear energy, but at the right time, and the right time is when we have so much renewable energy that everything can be replaced, and we are everywhere on this planet far away from that point, and so it was an absolute wrong decision to get out of nuclear energy in Germany this year. And yes, it was the government with a head of government from my party, but being in a party doesn't mean that you always agree with your party on everything. And so it was absolutely wrong to decide that way. I know a lot of you will disagree with me, but I would have preferred to take that step when we have enough renewable energy, and we are far away from that point. And I'll see you in my next video. Bis gleich.